Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you've never seen me before, well, my name is Lucy Day and I do a lot of crazy, otherworldly, pagan, creepy themed videos on this channel, so if you're into that, go ahead and subscribe. But today, we are going to be talking about clairaudience. Some of you may not be familiar with that term or may not know what it is, but I'm here to brief you on what it is and also give you some signs to see if maybe you are clairaudient. So what is clairaudient? It's a psychic ability like clairvoyance, which clairvoyance means clear seeing, so clairaudience literally translates to clear hearing, clairaudience. So it's an ability where you can basically receive intuitive messages from source, spirit, your higher self, other spirits, basically via hearing. Almost like telepathic communication going on with the divine, instead of seeing it like clairvoyance or clairsentience where you feel it. So clairaudience is more focused on the hearing side of things. Clairaudience can pick up sounds and things out of the normal range of hearing. So it can come in the form of voices, music, sounds, random sounds. You can receive messages internally, or you can receive them externally, which is kind of rare. And what I mean by that is you can hear it in your mental, or you could hear it as if somebody's speaking right next to you. So clairaudience is very subtle and soft most times, but it can be loud and blatant most times. When we're going to talk about like warnings and things like that, when somebody's trying to warn you, but most of the time it is soft and very subtle, almost like you're communicating with yourself. We'll get into that too. It is said sometimes that this gift is easy to deny and kind of brush off as like voices in your head, but once you learn to differentiate between what is you and what is spirit, it becomes a lot easier. The process of communication becomes a lot easier when you're dealing with the clairaudient ability. Also, I will say, for those of you thinking like clairaudience is just like, voices in your head or like a mental illness, it is not. It is not something that hinders you or damages you or it affects your life in a way where you cannot function. It is also something that you can control. Usually clairaudients find that they can control when they hear these voices or these sounds. Also, the words and the sounds that we're hearing and the guidance that we're getting is just that, it's guidance. So usually you won't get violent messages or things that tell you to harm yourself. So this is guidance, and the words and the things that we hear never impose on our free will. So that is like a good difference between like a mental illness and something else. Clairaudience is not mental illness. There is a difference. It could be quite close, but as are most things, dealing with spirituality. Am I right? Signs. If you clicked on this video because you want to know or you wanted to see if you were clairaudient or not, I'm about to go through with the signs. So the first sign of clairaudience, I feel like the most consistent sign anyway, is talking to yourself. Because what most people don't realize is that the voices that you hear, usually they sound like your own voice. Usually the guidance that you receive sounds like your own voice, except the way I've learned to differentiate between whether it's just my nonsense or it's something else coming through my voice is because it's something you weren't usually thinking. Like if I'm talking to myself, and which I do quite often, and then there's something else talking back or responding back, but it's not coming from me. It's not even like, it's just not even stemming off of my thought. It's just coming out of nowhere. Usually what happens is the communication is happening without you even realizing it. So a sign that you could be clairaudient is talking to yourself quite often, because you could be communicating accidentally with spirit, and you might find that comforting. Number 2, high-pitched ringing noises or in the ears, or high-pitched noises, frequencies picking up in the ear, or pressure changes in the ear. So dealing with clairaudience, you may hear those high-pitched pressure noises in your ear, and I feel like that is spirit trying to get your attention, that they literally want to grab you by the ear. I think that's pretty safe to say every time that happens. So pay attention. If you do often get that frequency in your ears or pressure changes in your ears, it's probably because spirit's trying to grab your attention. And you also might be clairaudient. Number 3, you may hear your name being called, or you may get little messages, little guidance messages. And what I mean, I'll elaborate. So what I mean by guidance messages, I mean more warnings. So say you're walking somewhere or you're driving, let's say driving somewhere, and all of a sudden something just tells you put on a seatbelt or cross to the other side of the road, right? And so you just decide to follow it, and it ends up like saving your life, or it ends up saving somebody else's life, or something happens and it's like you took that advice and like it was a game changer, like something dramatic happened. Those little warnings, those little messages, those little blatant like moments that you hear, those, if you get those a lot and messages come to you via hearing like that, like warning signs or like blatant messages, you could be clairaudient. Or if you're just sitting alone, or you know nobody's around and you hear your name being called a lot, that could also be a sign. That happens to me a lot, just out of nowhere. Just somebody will call my name and I'll be like, huh, what? Number 4, music. If you are musically inclined, if music connects you deeply to your soul, you could be clairaudient. Or if you learn by auditory means, like if you tend to learn better by listening to something, you know, we are very sensitive. Our hearing is very sensitive, and when you come in tune with these vibrations, especially with music, you tend to, you know, connect very deeply with music if you are clairaudient. Be moved to an extent so deeply by music. If you have a natural gift or knack for hearing music and like, you know, writing your own songs, or if you are musically inclined already or gifted in that way, you could be clairaudient. Or like I said, if you learn by auditory means. Okay. Number 5. This I feel like is the most like surefire sign that you are clairaudient. It's the translation. I call it the translation process. That's what I call it. So basically, it's when you ever have one of those moments where, you know, you feel something tells you just, you know, to talk to this person, and you just go and you talk and you hear what you have to say in your head, and so you start saying what you need to say, and it feels like somebody else is speaking through you, and you're just saying all these words. You're saying all these words to that one person, and it turns out to be really good guidance, and you don't know where that guidance came from. Kind of sounds like somebody else spoke through you for a second there. That's the translation process. And clairaudients are really good at taking what they have in their head and articulating it in a way where it's easy. It's very easy for them to take what they have to say, and almost like an unconscious thing, because after you're done speaking, you're like, who was that? Was that me? Did I just offer this person this advice? Like, that didn't even sound like it came from me. And it's probably because it didn't. So if this happens to you often, you may be a sign that you are clairaudient, or in any other way gifted, because I feel like this process, this something speaking through you, is not just a sign that you're clairaudient. But I think the way to see it, like the way to, I guess, differentiate if it's another gift or not, is because you hear it. You hear the words. You kind of just are guided to tell them what you hear. That is what I think the translation process, the surefire sign that you may be clairaudient. Number 6, you tend to need quiet and rest, a period of just, you know, time to get away from all the noise. That is, you know, we do a lot of, we're very sensitive, so it is necessary for us to recharge and seek those times of peace and quiet, because also in those times, those are the times where we can really tune in and get in tune with the messages the Spirit is bringing to us. So maybe a sign, if you have all these other signs or have all these other symptoms, I guess, and you need that peace and quiet, it could, or also not even peace and quiet, but loud noises, loud people kind of get you irritable, or just feeling uncomfortable, could also be a sign. Lastly, this is my favorite sign, because you tend to receive signs or tend to receive messages through music or speech, or through auditory means. What I mean by that is, say you ask for a sign, or you're looking for signs, and you hear somebody talking and it refers, or it applies directly to your situation, directly to it, but totally out of context, but it could apply to your situation exactly, and offers a solution. And you're like, that's funny, that kind of relates back to me. And you're like, oh my God. Or you're listening to a piece of music or whatever, and one of the lyrics pops out to you, and you hear the lyrics, and it's almost like offers a guidance to your situation. You picking up signs through speech, or listening to others, or listening to music could be a sign that you're also clairaudient. So I keep saying I a lot, and throughout these signs that you may be clairaudient, because I'm trying to make it personal, I'm trying to make it like, so you can understand it as well. I have some personal experiences with my clairaudience. It's always something that I can't deny that I don't can't deny that I don't have it. I can't say that I don't have it, but then again, I don't want to admit that I do. It's just something that just has always been there, so I've never really acknowledged it as what it is, I guess. But for me, speaking personal from experience, and if you just want to get how I tune in and like how it's been for me, usually for me, communication is done mentally. So I hear the messages in my head. Rarely is it ever outside, like somebody else coming up to me or speaking to me, or like what I mean by that is like I don't usually hear voices on the outside. I hear it on the inside, or I hear sounds on the inside. It is most of the time, 99% of the time, it is very soft and very subtle, almost unrecognizable if I were to just, let it pass. But when you can really fine tune and differentiate, like, okay, that didn't sound like myself, or okay, yeah, that sounded like me, but that did not come from me. That's kind of like I've had to learn how to differentiate between those different voices. And then sometimes it's really loud and blatant. So it's softest when I'm communicating with myself. Like if I'm just having a conversation with myself, or in my head, I talk to myself a whole lot. Like so much so that when I have a responding person or a responding, I don't even know if it's a spirit or not, but it's kind of always been with me. I call him my therapist, and basically I will have conversations in my head and there will be a voice responding to me. I call him my therapist. I truly think I've always felt this male energy next to me and with me. I truly think he is my spirit guide. I met my spirit guides once, apparently. I think if you want to check that out, it is over there. For me, there's always been this energy, and he's very soft and very subtle. Whenever I talk to myself, there's always a voice that responds, and sometimes it sounds like me, but then, I don't know, it's usually not like what, usually offers advice that I wasn't thinking of. In the medium range, like when it's in the medium range of like volume, it's usually when I'm channeling and like channeling the voices or writing down what I'm hearing they're saying. They get a little louder, and then the voices start to differentiate. So I may hear a male voice speaking to me and I'm writing down what they're saying. I did this in my automatic writing video, which is also, maybe it's up there, maybe it's over there, but whatever. I did this in my automatic writing video, and sometimes it's a male voice that will come through and I'll be writing for him. And again, it's in the medium range, so it's not really like loud yet. And then sometimes it's a woman's voice or a female's voice. It really depends. Sometimes it's my voice. Sometimes it's a voice that I know. It depends when I'm channeling. I kind of have never been in a situation where I've like gotten those blatant warning signs, but mostly when it's really loud, it's my name being called, or I hear like whispers or laughs or something like that. Mostly like laughs and like whispers, but when it's really loud, it's definitely my name that's being called, like out of nowhere. Also, I just heard something. Like I said, I've always kind of had it. It's never really been something that I questioned. And yeah, I guess you could say, like, it's kind of hard to like admit. I feel like this is one of the easiest gifts to have and also to deny at the same time. Because you don't want to, like, it just sounds something that's so crazy to admit and so loosely defined, and it kind of is like, out in the air. Not a lot of people, I feel like, talk about clairaudience. You usually hear about people who have the gift of sight and clairvoyance, but you don't really hear about clairaudient. It's an odd gift, but it is in existence. Hard for me to admit though. Also, something interesting, sometimes people with clairaudience usually have an ear that the messages come through. For me, it's my left ear. I always get messages through my left ear, especially it's kind of just a knowing. When it comes from my left ear, it's guidance. It's like divine guidance. It's usually, I feel like higher vibrational beings. And my right ear usually comes through when it's like either when I'm just hearing nonsense, when it's just me making shit up. Like I can tell when it's just me making shit up. And usually, sometimes I pick up on, I think what I'm picking up on is like spirits, like actual entities, more grounded entities than higher vibrational beings. Because usually from the right ear, I'm not hearing guidance. I'm just hearing blah, blah, blah. Usually the left ear is more crisp and defined and, offers more guidance. But the best example of like my clairaudience and how it gets used most often is kind of funny and very simple, but sometimes my spirits and my guides will help me out semantically. And what I mean by that is sometimes when I don't know a word for something, they kind of just fill me in on that word. And sometimes I will have no idea where this word comes from or what the word means, but I know that it's the right word because I heard it in my head and I know that it's right. And sometimes I don't know the definition. Sometimes I don't even know if it is a real word, but then I'll look it up and be like, damn, that was a real word. And the best example is of this, so it happens all the time when I'm talking to people, when I'm writing in essays. It really does help. I do really well in English because of this. But the best example I really like was when it just so happened, I was just feeling very vibrant this one day, very, you know, on the good side of fate, on the good side of luck. And I was like, damn, I feel really good right now. And I was just sitting there, you know, not really doing much. And then all of a sudden I hear somebody whisper, serendipity. Yeah, somebody just goes, serendipity. And I'm like, serendipity? Is that even a fucking word? Like, I had no idea what that word meant. And I was like, bro, what does that even mean? And I just heard serendipity. Very simple, serendipity. And I was like, serendipity. Serendipity. And so I type it up on Google. I'm like I just did, serendipity. The occurrence and development of events by chance in a happy, beneficial way. Basically, how I was feeling and the emotion that I was feeling. This serendipity, this word that came out of nowhere that had no idea of the meaning, perfectly fit and perfectly described how I was feeling and what was going on in my life. And I was like, huh. Okay. Yeah, so random nouns and random adjectives will randomly come to me. How to develop this gift. So most of it just comes from being open and trusting, I feel like. That's like the most important thing I can say if you have this gift and you're trying to develop it. Trust yourself, trust your intuition. What feels like you, what feels like something else. Once you can differentiate the voices, I feel like that's when it becomes a lot easier. And I will make a video on how to do that because it can be very hard sometimes. That is all I have about clairaudience today, folks. So if you enjoyed this video, if it helped you, please leave a like, subscribe. I'm here every Monday and Friday with new videos, sometimes in between. And I hope you guys enjoyed me talking about clairaudience and everything like that. Again, it is a very, very interesting ability for those who have it. Some of us may experience it more subtle like I do. Some of us may experience it more blatant and full force. I don't really have experience with that, but however it comes to you, I hope this video enlightened you a little bit or maybe helped guided you into your gift and into your ability. So thank you so much for watching. I love you guys so much, and that is it for me. So bye.